Good morning. Today, I want to talk to you, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you're watching this. Today, I want to talk to you about how we can trust our intuition. What is even intuition? And I want to tell you a little story about how I discovered my intuition. So, once upon a time, over a decade ago, if not 20 years ago now, I was having prophetic dreams and I was having lucid dreams. I had my first lucid dream where I realized in the dream that I was dreaming and that I could control the dream. And so I did. And it turned out to be very mystical and magical. And I'm not going to go too much into it because it's part of a book that I've been working on for over a decade that may never come. So who really cares? But there's that. So, intuition, what is it? So when I started to really tap into like prophetic dreams and that things started to happen in my world that I knew about already because I had dreamt it. Like I was given literal information about a boyfriend who in my dream was like with a friend of mine and they were together and all of that. And then lo and behold, he broke up with me. And shortly thereafter, they got together. I knew everything that was happening because my dream life told me so. So, intuition is trusting ourselves. It's trusting. And to me, if I could distill it down to one word for you, it's knowing. It's knowing what you know. So, our intuition might come through for us in various ways. Some people will feel, some people will know, some people might hear something. We have different ways to receive and tap into our knowing and our intuition. But at its core, I really think of intuition as knowing. You know what you know. And when you just know. And when something's going on, you know. And when someone's lying to you, you know. And so, this at its heart is intuition. And it's something that we are all God infused with. It's something we all have. It's something we can all hone and we can all develop. But the number one way that we can grow our intuition is through validation. So validating that it's your intuition and you have it and it's talking to you. And then acknowledging it and writing it down is a powerful way. Actually stating out loud, like, my intuition says, or putting it in a journal, sharing it with people, or finally and ultimately actually trusting it and acting on it. What happens for so many of us is that we are programmed to feel what others feel and to intuitively read the room and be a people pleaser and manage other people and just kind of set aside our own truth and our own knowing and our own feelings and just be there as this people pleasing, take care of everyone else, deny self type of being. This is the default programming for hundreds of years, if not thousands. So when we are actually courageous enough to know what we feel, to validate it, to speak about it, to act on it, then we can take those steps to differentiate who we are from who others are. I have a four-step process that I take people through that I learned when I went to psychic school and started to really hone in on my feeling and my intuition after I had these prophetic dreams and lucid dreams. I'll post it down below if you're interested in doing a spiritual meditative practice that can help you feel the number one problem, the number one resistance we have to following our intuition and actually acting on that is knowing what it really is, not doubting ourselves. So we have to develop a practice where we actually begin to tune in. If we're so distracted and we're so busy and we never journal or we never talk to a therapist or we don't talk to a friend or we don't admit these things out loud, then we are not going to really anchor in our truth. Often, when women come to me for a clairvoyant reading, one of the first things that comes through for them to do is to write it down, put it in a journal. Allow your truth, your feelings to come out of you and onto the page. We have to have a reflective touchstone. We have to be able to see our truth because we've got this like blender of our mind and emotions and all these things that are going on and so much coming at us from the outside world that what most people are doing is they are just at the effect of everything that's going on outside of them. And barely any of us, unless we carve out the time, actually can sit down and feel what we feel and know what we know and hear those whispers of our intuition. So, if you don't have a practice that's reflective, if you are not meditating or journaling or sitting by a stream or going for a walk or going to a therapist where you can really start to lay out the truth and see it for yourself and just reflect on it. When women are about to go through a big change, let's say someone comes to me and they want to leave their husband. One of the first things that I recommend that they do is that they write it down in a journal, that they start to just practice speaking it aloud to themselves. My intuition says, I want to leave my husband. Let me write this in my journal. Let me, one that you keep private and don't allow anyone to find. Got to see it. We got to get out of us. We've got to have it there so we can look at it because the ego always wants to go the predictable route. So if you're starting to think about making a really big change in life, whether it's leaving a husband or just acting on your intuition and differentiating yourself and delineating yourself from the predominant culture, these are big changes to the ego who always wants you to stay the same. Why? Because it's the ego's job to keep you alive. And going a different route, changing your life, transformation, that is the end of the ego. It is annihilation for the ego. So the ego will do everything it can to keep you keeping on status quo. 'Cause then it always knows what's around the next corner. For you to make a big change in your life, you have got to start to look at it, to see it, to practice speaking about it, to get it out of your nervous system. Because when it's internal, when it's inside and it's just kind of this whispering in the back, and we're not really making it tangible or looking at it, it feels like a fire breathing dragon. It feels like this huge thing that we cannot face down. But if we get it out and we write it down and we look at it, we can go, okay, all right, this isn't so big. This isn't so bad. It's like a match on the floor. It doesn't have to be that big. It doesn't have to be that huge. This is something I can see. It's something I can manage. It's something I can think about and work with. That is what we want to do whenever we're trying to make a big change and following our intuition, trusting ourselves, feeling what we truly feel is step number one. We have to admit the truth to ourselves before we can ever admit the truth to anybody else. We have to speak it out loud. So, being intuitive is an act of courage. Being intuitive is an act of bravery. Being intuitive is radical. It's saying, I'm going to prioritize myself over everybody else. I'm going to close the door, turn off my phone, sit down and meditate and focus just on me. This goes against all predominant programming in the culture that says you are here as a woman to serve. You are here to take care of your family, your husband, your children, your neighbors, your community, your church, whatever it is. And don't you dare close that door and listen to yourself because that is radical feminism. That is radical trusting your intuition, right? We're going against thousands of years of saying that if you want to know what you're supposed to do, go talk to the priest or the preacher, go outside of yourself, go and externally look for your answers out there in the world, right? That's what we've done for eons. If you were a woman way back in the day, you're not meditating by yourself and telling people my intuition says. They would put you in an insane asylum. Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of your life. How dare you think that you have a connection to source? What is intuition? It is our connection to your higher self, source, God, creator, all that is, your spiritual team, your ancestors. If that overwhelms you and sounds too scary, start with your heart. It is the truth of your heart. It is anchoring in the heart. When we begin to open our heart and we want to be more heart centered, then we begin to know our truth. And it's scary because if we're going to speak our truth and say what we want and say what we feel, we're going against all the cultural programming that says women should just be here to serve. We are getting empowered. We are having stronger boundaries, and we're going to begin to follow our own knowing and our own truth. And that can make us scary for anybody out there who is not doing that. So, what is our intuition? It's our truth, it's our heart, it's our knowing. It's honoring self as one and accessible to, in connection with all knowing, all source, all truth. It's believing that you have the power. So we have to sit down and feel. We have to sit down and be. People won't sit down because if you sit down and you shut the door and turn off your cell phone, you're going to feel. You're going to feel. If you sit down and you shut the door and you turn off your cell phone, you're going to feel. You're going to feel things. Now, a powerful question to ask is this mine or is this somebody else's? We have to begin to differentiate. Are you feeling your stuff that's coming up for you to heal, or are you feeling other people's stuff? Is it even yours? When we begin to slow down and ask ourselves these questions, is this mine? Who does this belong to? Where did this come from? Do I need to carry this anymore? Is this coming up to heal, to be released? Because most often, if you're getting centered and anchored and awakening and trusting your intuition and all of that, then probably this old stuff is coming up to be healed. It's coming up to be felt and released. It's happening for you. So that is what I believe intuition is. And that is what you can do with it and what you need to do with it to continue to grow so that you can trust yourself, know yourself, love yourself, live from your heart, speak your truth, have all you desire because you are taking out all middlemen and you are honoring that you can go within and know what you know and speak your truth. Thanks for joining with me today.